Let's kind of take a deep breath. Because I don't know about you, but this has been quite the morning, right? A lot of energy, a lot of stuff going on. You might not remember, because it seems like it's been so long since we gathered together, even though we only did miss 1 week. But we were concluding our sermon series on pain. And I knew when I was coming into doing this sermon series that I wanted you to hear someone's voice is besides mine to speak about pain in your life. For many years, I had spoken to people and referred them to a therapist who I know they spoke about their deep pains with, and that this man journeyed with them and assisted them and brought them to a place of peace. And so I was so excited when James Verser said that he would be willing to come and speak today on the subject of pain with all of you. We need to be especially grateful that he got there, because he and his wife shoveled and plowed for 2.5 hours this morning to get here, so it was quite an effort, but we really believed that this was a message that needed to be heard. And so this morning I ask you to welcome James Verser and just give him your hearts and your minds and your attention on this subject as we wrap up this subject of pain.
He asked me to talk and preach on the subject of relationship pain. And she was taking Job, a brave woman. Job is a fascinating biblical book. It's got all kinds of explanations and interpretations and so forth. And I moved my glasses 10 times this morning. And so I preached on Job a number of times, put all of my notes, and started thinking about how am I going to do it related to relationship issues and pain. And by the time I almost got this notebook filled up, I realized that I didn't have a sermon. I had this graduate school seminar. So I had to back up, say, well, I'm not going to take all day here, and I'm not going to go all those other places. Job prompts asking so many questions. And they're important questions, and we can't deal with all of them. And so I'm trying to narrow down all of this stuff that I've done and speak to you about pain in relationships and what it is. First thing I'm going to do is I don't know how much of the story of Job you told. I'm just going to hit a couple of high notes and pinpoint the scripture that Steve read. The story, of course, is that God and Satan had a bet. And the bet was that Job would remain faithful to God or not. And God just affirmed that Job was a righteous man. We know that going in. And Satan wiped out everything and took everything, and he met with his friends and they talked and they argued about what was going on. And his friends affirmed the basic notion that we still have, is that, we must have done something wrong. But we know God said he was a righteous man, but you must not have been that righteous, because pain is what happens when people aren't good people. And this just doesn't make any sense. And Job rails and carries on, and patience of Job just does not exist. Job is a very impatient man. So he demands, God, you show up. You come here and you tell these people, I am a righteous person. I'm a good man. I have not sinned. That's what he does. That was the first thing that he read. Job was demanding God show up and exonerate me. So guess what? God showed up. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Got a lot of that stuff in the hymns we sang this morning and whatnot. God showed up. And Job's, okay, now, make it right. And what God did? God said, how great I am. Now, it starts off with him saying, I'm going to question you. But God didn't give Job a chance to answer. God went on for 4 chapters. My mighty acts, how wonderful I am. I am God. But he did not say, Job, you're a righteous man. He did not say, your friends are wrong. He did not answer Job. And what did Job say? God's here. It's over. I'm healed. That's what happened. God did not say, you're a good guy. God ignored Job, basically, but he showed up. And that's the answer to pain. I will try to go a little further with that. What is pain and what is suffering? Well, we think about pain and we don't know what it is. Oh! Splinter here. What is a splinter here? Okay. What happens when you have pain? What happens when you hurt? Pain is totally self-centered. What is up there before you had pain needs to be felt or something? Absolutely, you're not going to avoid it. And it's going to focus you on yourself. Pain is very self-centered. Pain means me. I hurt. And while I'm hurting, I don't care about you and I don't care about anybody else. I'm going to be me. So, pain hurts and keeps me focused on me. Does this thing come up? I have to loosen it, don't I? Some just come up and some have to be loosened and tightened, see? I can't see that far down. Okay. So, all these pages I do have, I have some things I'm going to refer to. So I figured out some stuff about pain. We like the world to be orderly. We like for things to be the way they are. When I put my hand on a nice sanded pew that's got finish on it, I'm not expecting a splinter. And so something intrudes on my sense of self and my sense of orderliness. Something doesn't go the way I want it to go. That's pain. That hurts. We don't like that. But it's real. It's what happens. And we will attend to it in some fashion or other. So, pain creates a cognitive crisis. Things aren't right. Something's wrong. And we have various attempts at dealing with it. But the order that we want in this experience is not here. Sometimes that experience is a tragedy. Sometimes that experience is very, very difficult to deal with. Pain in and of itself goes away. That finger doesn't hurt me anymore. Of course, it was an act to make a point, but you stick a splinter in, something happens, and the pain subsides. Sometimes the pain does not subside. It goes on and on. And the pain becomes suffering. Now, there's 2 kinds of suffering. I call them real suffering and pseudo-suffering. Real suffering is when something has happened. It is out of your control. Job suffered. He had no power to stop Satan trying to win the bet with God. And he wiped out everything that Job had. He even was able at one point to inflict Job's body with pain. And so, that's suffering. It goes on and on and on. And there's nothing you can do about it except get through it. Pseudo-suffering. That's when we have pain that we can do something about, and we don't. We don't take responsibility. And that pain goes on and on and on, and we tend to then use suffering language. Oh, I've suffered through this for so long. Now, we've recently gone through some terrible economic times, and people couldn't get jobs for a long time through no fault of their own. That's suffering. I'm sitting at home every day, catching the news, having a cup of coffee, and not looking for a job. And I'm suffering because I don't have a job. That's not suffering. That's self-pity. That's painful, but it's not suffering. And so, I'm not going to spend as much time as I originally planned to spend talking about suffering, because relational pain, for the most part, is not suffering. It is experiencing things in the relationship that matters to me that don't go the way I want them to go, and they hurt. Neurologists have discovered that emotional pain turns on the same brain circuits as physical pain. So the pain you feel is real. I'm not discounting the fact that whatever it is that's happening is hurting, but in relationship pain, there is pretty much something you can do about it, but you don't. So, I'm going to talk to you about some of my basic therapy concepts. I have a thing I'm going to give you right now, and it's going to explain what normal is. Okay?
Is there such a thing?
Some of you are not familiar with normal? Is that the case? Or you just think you're not familiar with it? Okay, here's a normal thing. Every day, you are in close proximity, physical proximity, to people who matter to you, to people who love you. Is there anybody who does not have that in their life? Okay? So, what I'm describing is normal. Everybody's got it. Everybody has people in their lives, spouses, children, parents, friends, and we see these people on a regular basis, and we're in close physical proximity to them. Okay? Now, here's the part that most people do not acknowledge to be real. Each and every day, that person or persons will disappoint you. Anybody had that experience? Okay? That is normal. There is nothing wrong about that. That's not bad. That's what is. Well, okay, let's shift it to theological religious language. It's called sin. We are not perfect. We cannot be perfect. We cannot behave and engage with other people in a way where it's constantly and consistently warm and fuzzy. And our relationship with God is the same. God disappoints us all the time because He doesn't meet our expectations. That's relationship pain. It happens each and every day. The people that you are with every day will disappoint you by opposing you, by not doing what you want them to do, think, or feel. Those are three things that go on with each one of us every day, 24/7, 365. You're always thinking, you're always feeling, you're always behaving. And you disappoint me when you don't do any of those the way I want you to. Okay? All right, if you listen closely, you begin to see how responsible I am for my disappointments and my pain in relation to you, because you aren't doing it like I wanted you to do it. I'm going to tell you the most popular argument between people. You know, if you'd only be doing this thing like I want you to, we wouldn't have this problem. You ever had that conversation? My wife and I had that conversation one night, some years ago. Fortunately, we were in a good enough place we could laugh. But it's real. People come into my office all the time. And life would be better if she just did a little bit better. She ought to be holding that baby on the other side right now. That's what we do. Okay? Now, whenever that disappointment occurs, whether it's over something very minor or it's something very big, we have two choices. The first choice is we can figure out who I am, what's my best self, and make a decision to respond from my best self. Or we will make a response from the less than best part of me. Okay? Let me put that in some other language. Whenever you disappoint me, I have an opportunity to respond to you so that I glorify God. Because I have to believe, as a believer, that when God is within me, and I express that, that's got to be the best I can be. With whatever limitations the human being has when channeling God, because I'm not God. But I make that effort to glorify God when you are really POing me. Because if I don't, my other option is sin. I will respond from less than my best. Or to go back to Job, we might say that that's the Satan part. So why do people come and see me? They don't have a clue about what their best self is. Well, they have a clue. But they can't do it when they need to do it. A rule that I use with all of my clients is the emotional intensity rule. As your level of emotional intensity goes up, your ability to think clearly and be in control of yourself goes down. And so people get all excited and they lose contact with God. They lose contact with themselves. They don't do their best. And now I am engaging in disappointing you. Of course, you've already disappointed me. And so we go back to the most popular argument and we fall into the blame game. That's the main thing that goes on in relationships that creates and sustains pain. If you hadn't have done that, or if you would only do this, then we would be better off. And I'd be exonerated. We all got a little Job in us. We want to be exonerated. We don't want the pain, and we want you to fix it. Now, not only that, not only do I want you to fix it, I want God to fix it. And so, I ignore Scripture, and I say, God, you failed. You got to come around and make it right. That's what Job said. You got to make it right. You got to exonerate me. You got to fix the problem. You got to take care of things. We just love to have a dependent relationship on God. I was very aware today that there was only one time in all the songs that were up there on the screen where I really saw that reflected. All the rest of them were theologically sound to my mind. But there was one line that said, come and rescue me. Come and rescue me. We want God to fix it. I want you to fix it. I don't want to take care of myself. Even though in the first chapter, we done lost something on the screen.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, okay. You see what I see? In the first chapter of Genesis, God gave us responsibility, dominion. And we not only need to be responsible for our environment, we need to be responsible for ourselves. And you can see, call the Old Testament a history of God's failure, trying to force us into doing that after he gave us freedom. And so we keep looking somewhere else for the solution. Here's something important about pain and about suffering. If you are able to take that step back and reflect on yourself, it takes a little help from God, I think, to do this very well, but look deeply inside of yourself. In that pain, you will find the direction you need to take. You will find what you need to do. That's hard. When you've done something that I don't like, I want you to do it different. I don't want to do it different. I want you to do it. And when you don't do it, I stamp my foot. I give you the silent treatment. I tell you you're stupid or dumb or whatever. And multiply the pain. Because I don't want to have to take responsibility. And then we try to mold our image of God into being somebody who's going to take care of us. But what does it say throughout the Bible? How wonderful am I? You want me to make you okay? Let's talk about it. You know, Cavaliers are coming into the city tonight. They're going to play the Knicks. Who's going to win?
Next.
We got fans here. Okay. See, that's what God did. God didn't give him an answer. What God did was he showed up. The most powerful thing in the world is God showing up. 23rd Psalm. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? No, that's not what it says. It says, because let's go take a walk around the rim on the top of the mountains and look down into the valley and see all that pain. And we can stand here and we'll be okay. Doesn't it say that? Doesn't it say, I'm going to fly down in here in this valley and I'm going to pluck you up and take you up out of here and you won't have pain anymore. Isn't that what it says? Lifeboat's turned over. I'm going to jump in the water and swim you back to the shore. I'm going to rescue you. Is that what it says? No. Well, what does Samuel good as God? He disappoints us all the time. He showed up and he walked through the garden. Through the valley. The only way that doesn't happen, you don't ask for him to be there. That's what happens. God showed up. The disciples were walking along the road towards Emmaus. And what happened? Showed up. Nobody knew where he came from. They were talking about him, focused on him. They never knew who he was. But they felt something different when he was gone. Something changed. When God shows up, something happens that you didn't expect. Because what you expected was BS. You expected the human thing. You expected not to have to take responsibility for yourself. You expected not to have to be called on a carpet for your part of this problem. You expected not to be told, you disappoint me because of the expectations I put on you that you don't meet. Well, we're going to do that. We are human beings. That's why this is normal. It is normal for this kind of pain to exist in our lives, but we don't want to see it as normal. We want to see it as some problem that you have. And if you could fix it, my life would be good. That's what happens in relationships. That's what happens in our relationship with God. So, we like to be dependent on God and on our partners, our friends. Parenting is one of my big things. Do a lot of stuff with parenting. You might need some. I see you got one. And the big problem is I expect my children to be grown-ups. So I don't have to parent. So I don't have to set limits. So I don't have to hold the line. So I don't have to be reliable. So I don't have to, what? Be there. I can go back doing my things because I know you're going to be behaving yourself and make my life good. But Dad, burn it! You won't do that. When I get so frustrated I don't know what to do, I'm going to go see a therapist for it. They come in and expect me to start telling, okay, if you do this and this, you'll get your kids straightened out and you'll be fine. And I disappoint them. Because I say, it starts with you. It starts with you. Okay? So, when we try to figure out in more practical terms, what do we do in our relationships? Well, we are created in God's image. And it starts right off in Genesis 1:1. And I was going to try to memorize this in Hebrew, and I don't think I got it. This goes something like this. Breshith bara Elohim wa ha'aretz wa something else. In the beginning, God did what? He created. And God, we are in God's image. We are creative. Creativity means seeing something as it really is, and then seeing something a little different. We see options. We see something different. And the difference between real creativity and fantasy is I make that option become real in this world. Okay? So, part of what we do in a practical way in relationships is we glorify God, we channel God, and we look creatively and with curiosity at the pain I'm having with you and see options. What's something else I can do besides what I've been doing? This is what I've been doing. I've been pointing the finger. What's another option for what this means? Huh? Notice, one finger's pointing at you, three are pointing at me, and one is pointing at God. Notice, I got them both trumped, 3-1, 3-2. It's me. So, to take that look at me creatively, to see options for myself within this painful encounter that's going on, and to make that option real, that's part of what you do. And I'm going to tell you, it's one of the hardest things in the world you can do. Because when you are having the pain, another part of the definition of pain is it means that your emotional intensity is high. It's always high when you have pain. Every time you have one of those disappointments, it becomes more difficult to stay focused, to stay calm, to think clearly, and to do something that comes from the best part of you to glorify God. It's very hard to do that. Okay? So when I'm in this interaction, it's not going well. To see another option is very hard to do. Oh, well, too bad. You don't get off the hook because it's hard. You bear down. You calm yourself. You get focused. So you see options to your problem. Part of what that means is you turn to the pain and you embrace it. My pain has within it something that will help me see things a little differently. And that is when pain and suffering becomes a blessing. But it takes your own creativity, your own openness and willingness to look there, to discover precisely what that is and receive the blessing. Another thing that you do, you reach out. That song was from my childhood. The last one we did? Know which one I mean? Who was the group that did it? Who did it way back then? I don't remember right now. Stand by me. How do you stand by somebody you're pissed off with? Whoops, I wasn't supposed to say that in church, was I? I'll probably disappoint a few of you. I'm sorry if you're hurting, but oh well. Normal! How about that? Some things sink in. Okay, so. Now, what was I going to say? It happens to me these days. Oh, yes! You reach out, have somebody. Some of you may have seen, it's an old movie now, George Burns and John Denver and Oh God. See that movie? I love this scene. They're sitting inside John's car, and it's raining inside the car. And he's going on with a litany of all the woes of the world and the wars and the starving and everything else. It's always on everybody's list from time immemorial. It's the same thing. Okay? He's going, so why don't you do something about it, God? Why does this go on and on? You don't do anything. He said, I did. What? I gave you each other. I watched that movie. I was shocked that something so profound came out of that riot laughing movie with the lightweight John Denver. You know, he was always considered a lightweight. That was profound. So when you're hurting, one of the things you do is you reach out to someone. Now, if you're the one hurting me, or rather, if you're the one that I'm saying is hurting me, to get away from the blaming, see, it's easy to get to the blaming language, see? But if I'm feeling hurt in relation to you, I may not be able to talk with you right now. So what I need to do is I need to go over and I need to find you. Can we talk? I had dinner Friday night, a good friend of mine. That's what we did. We talked, each had a chance to talk about some pain we were having that we weren't ready to deal yet with somebody else about. And we walked with each other. We journeyed. Remember, the most powerful thing, this is my interpretation, the most powerful experience that we have with God is when He walks through the valley of the shadow of death with us, when He journeys with us and doesn't fix it, but stands there and you can feel the love. And you judge yourself. But with that love, you might find that creativity that He gave us and do something constructive about it. And so that's what we need to do. We need to reach out to our friends. We need to find a way to sit with the person who has hurt us so that we can feel what's going on without doing much sometimes. Sometimes you need to go to a professional, somebody like me. I'm not the only one. To have somebody who has plenty of experience. A pastor is great. So that you can talk and share, get some feedback, so that you can have that experience of God being with you. So, I'm going to stop because time goes and I could keep going. With the people that are in your life every day, and the relationships that you have, you look to pull from the best of you to glorify God, to let God into your life, walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and embrace being in that valley to discover what the options are so that you can choose one of those options and let this problem, this difficulty, this pain become a blessing. Have the walk to Emmaus. And it says, I think in Romans, I'm not good at remembering precisely chapter and verse, nothing can separate you from the love of God. Nothing. That's the whole story of the Bible. Jesus came. Nothing more really needs to be said. He came and he stayed in our lives. So, let us pray. And Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to gather and wrestle with your word. Try to see if it can make sense to us on many levels. See if we can figure out how to help it enter our daily lives so we can heal and love and glorify you.